On this episode of Pit Stop, we discuss surprising results of the Hungarian Grand Prix qualifying with Mr. Saturday himself, Charles Leclerc, taking pole position. We recap what the Ferrari pit wall did with that pole, and we take you through a nail-biting battle for the finish between the Drivers' Championship leaders at McLaren. Welcome to Pit Stop with Don and James. I'm Don.
I'm James.
James, how we doing, man? We just finished Hungarian Grand Prix. Did your heart rate come down yet?
My heart rate started pretty low on the totem pole. It wasn't high to begin with.
Yeah. Well, it was an exciting race, for sure. I'm excited to talk about it. Before we get into that, though, I think we all gotta show off some of the new swag and merch we got here. I got my same old hat, victory hat, a good hat on for a good result for McLaren. But over the last week, I went out and I was shopping. I don't know if you've noticed this, but some of the fashion brand stores now, they're like really ramping up on their F1 merch.
Oh,
like
sure.
PacSun, American Eagle. I got this shirt at American Eagle. I'm going to take my jacket off in a second and show you the back because I think it's appropriate for today. But this jacket at Hollister, I don't know if I ever set foot in a Hollister before, but I went in there. I was probably 20 years older than anybody else that's in there, and they got all kinds of good stuff. So anyway, yeah, we're rocking the swag, and I gotta see this half zip that you're wearing because it's a defection, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I recently purchased this half zip. It's sporting the McLaren Formula One team, and it's got a nice white and papaya stripe on it, or cream color, I guess.
Very nice.
Just a nice little half zip, Even though it's going to be 110 today, I feel like I still had to wear it to show it off.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the other thing is I got my swig cup, and I don't know if you've ever been to Swig up here in the Salt Lake area.
That is the most Utah thing I think you've ever put a show on.
It's the most Utah thing. Swig is a fancy soda company, they're everywhere, and it's our favorite place. We just go get Diet Coke, or they've got all these fancy ones with different flavors and stuff. But anyway, I've had this since we moved here. We went and immediately picked up reusable stainless steel, and it's kind of a papaya color. It goes pretty good with the McLaren theme. So I got my Swig cup.
I'm actually sporting a mug myself today. If you've got a problem with your car, which I don't think I can show the backside because there's a really nice profanity on it, but for those that know, right? So a pretty good one.
Very good. I gotta as promised, I'm gonna show you the back of this shirt here.
Yeah, let's see it.
It's pretty good. Probably better than the front, actually. Oops, I don't run into my stool. It's got
Oh, there you go. That's actually really sick.
Like a little Lando champagne celebration. I don't know if you can see it. I can't see what's on the.
No, you're good, man. Yeah, I could definitely see it. That's a really good one. So now you got something for both of the guys. Hat
That's
is
right.
Oscar and a shirt is Norris. That's pretty good.
I strategically wore this one for that reason, because it was I had to represent both guys today. I do have a Norris jersey, but it's in the wash, and so I had to wear this one because I had to rep both guys for a
No, that's a good one, man. They did have a fantastic result, but I think we have to talk about the article that you sent me this past weekend about Lewis Hamilton saying, what did he say? He said, I think, quote, "I'm absolutely useless and probably need to change the driver after a painful Q2 exit in Hungary." Man, what happened?
I don't know. He was kind of sad sacking around. I don't know, man. That was a little bit shocking. He's not the kind of attitude that a Formula One driver usually has. But yeah, he was saying well, it's not the team, it's not the car. Obviously, the car's on pole, and it's just got to be me, basically. So yeah, I don't know. That was not an encouraging moment from Lewis. And the race wasn't great for him either. But I thought he had moments in the race where he looked all right.
Yeah, and well, the interesting thing is when you go back and look at all three practice sessions, his lowest one was, I think, practice 2 where he was down in 6th, but practice 1 and practice 3 he was in the top 5 both times.
Yeah.
But then when it came to qualifying, he just couldn't translate it.
Yeah.
His fastest time was a 15:7. Looking at it right now, and I remember watching. I forget which session it was. Maybe free practice too. But he was on the radio saying, kind of asking where Piastri was, and he's like, "Oh, he's like a second ahead of you." He's like, "Man, where is he finding this second?" And immediately his engineer, he's like, "Turn 5, turn 9, and like I don't know whatever it was, turn 13 or whatever." Listing off where he's losing the most time, and he just, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to catch the McLarens, but to fall off that fast from all 3 free practices into qualifying, it was a dramatic shift, just super out of place again.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm feeling it for Lewis right now. And, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to get inside the head of a guy like that. But, like I said last week, I think, I kind of made a pretty bold claim that I think it was a mistake for him to have jumped to the Ferrari from the Mercedes, and I still, after one more week of watching, I still feel that way. The Mercedes car is doing pretty good. They've won, I think, races since he left. Ferrari hasn't come close, or they've maybe won one race, I think. But yeah, I don't know. It's a it's a hard one, and you'd hate to see it for a guy as decorated as Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, they've come kind of close. I think today's been the closest that they've come. Having Charles Leclerc on pole, um, but just couldn't translate it, man. Which I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead. I don't know if there's anything else from qualifying that you want to mention.
Um, well, so I think we could talk a couple of things about qualifying. Just a few things that stood out. The Aston Martin came alive at Hungary. Like from
Yes, absolutely.
a terrible a terrible Belgian Grand Prix and qualifying and everything to you know a very strong result for the Astons.
Yeah, sort of. I don't want to say surprising in for this race, right? But kind of all weekend they've been punching it. I mean, free practice 3, they were both in the top 10, and then I think even in free practice 2 and 1, they were both in the top 10. Maybe not, maybe not the first one. That's right, because Fernando Alonso set out the first free practice. He had a sort of back injury. I'm glad he was able to step in and go race.
Yeah,
Hoping
and
him a
do a good
speedy,
job racing
hope
too.
a speedy recovery. But yeah, man, qualified 5th and 6th. What a mega drive from Aston Martin. I don't think anybody expected it. They have been. I think the kind word is dragging. They've been dragging the past few races, and uh, Hungary's just a different beast altogether. It's a shorter track. It's a very tight, narrow track. There's really only one place to overtake, and it's dicey at best. We've seen some big accidents there in the past. Even last year, Max and Hamilton coming together. So just a different beast. But I'm glad that their car is just suited to Hungary.
Right? Yeah. I mean, pretty good result for Aston Martin, which we will get to, I think, a little bit later. Another thing that stood out: Yuki got out in Q1. I mean, Yuki continues to just biff it this year. Albon was dead last. That had to have hurt your heart.
That's why my heart rate was low all weekend. It was such a bummer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, their car just was not suited for this race.
Yeah. Another thing that was a shock: Max sandwiched between the two racing bulls. That's where he ended up in the end of qualifying, right? So nobody
Was
sees
he?
Max. Yeah,
Yeah, he was just ahead of him. Max qualified
Um.
8th. Lawson was 9th. Hadjar
Oh
was
yes,
10th.
you're right. He was sandwiched between them after Q2. Sorry, I misread my note, but yeah,
Oh, there you
he
go.
between after Q2 he was in between the racing bulls. Colapinto, sorry, Bortoleto gets through to Q3. Nobody sees that coming. I mean, there
Yeah,
was
man.
some crazy stuff that happened in this thing.
What a mega drive from Gabrielle. Out qualifying Verstappen. Coming in at
Yeah,
7th, man. What a mega drive from the Sauber driver. I think everybody was, thinking of Nico was going to piggyback, but the past 2 races, he just hasn't been able to translate it. Gabrielle's been ahead of him twice now.
yeah. Well, it's like he slingshotted his teammate past him, which is good for the team. You know,
Yeah,
Bortoleto is pulling out good results of the last couple races. So Max is
absolutely.
only P8 at the end of the qualifying. So I mean, nobody sees that coming. And then Leclerc takes pole position, which was a heck of a lap from Leclerc, and I mean, nobody sees the Ferrari taking a pole, and so
By
that was
two
very
hundredths,
exciting.
right?
I think so. The whole top three were, or top four were only separated by 500ths. It was an insane top four finish, you know.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
so yeah, I mean that was all pretty cool stuff from qualifying. Made for a very exciting qualifying round, you know. And so it was just to recap the top four, I guess, was Leclerc on pole, Oscar Piastri P2, Lando P3, and um, George Russell P4, right?
Yeah, man. George Russell continuing to put in the work for his team and for himself. He is typically the only guy that's right behind the McLarens. And if, Verstappen's usually right behind him, and then George is right there as well. Uh, just Verstappen a little out of place this weekend, but for Charles Leclerc to come soaring past not just George but the McLarens was not on my bingo card for this weekend. And in all fairness, I think my fantasy really suffered this weekend. I have yet to look.
Oh boy,
Uh, yeah, the imminent pain that is going to come when I open it up is what I'm avoiding.
I'm clawing my way up from the back, so anything that doesn't send me back to the back of the grid for the fantasy team is good for me. Um, anyway, I keep having to hear my son gloat about him winning the
Oh
fantasy
yeah.
league when he doesn't do anything and he hardly ever watches the races.
That's
So,
painful.
all right, so we got through qualifying, took a few notes there, and then a few things, I guess, to kind of tee up the Hungarian Grand Prix, right?
Yeah,
This is the 40th Hungarian Grand Prix, so kind of a milestone for the track and the
absolutely.
racing, the Formula One. It was an interesting thing at the beginning of this thing. Uh, the McLaren came into this thing having won front row 1-2 finish for 3 races in a row, which is impressive in its own right. If they were to take a 1-2 in this race, be 4 in a row, and the first time they've done that since Senna and Prost were driving for them. So pretty awesome there. The top 3 on the grid: Leclerc, Piastri, Lando, um, all sitting on 8 career race wins. So
8
whoever took
each.
8 each, yeah,
Oh
kind of an
wow. Okay.
unusual circumstance, right?
Yeah.
um, and yeah, so those were kind of the interesting things, like going into just starting this thing up. The top 11 started on mediums. I think suspected that it was going to be a 2-stop race for most people. And then another interesting start. Sonoda ended up on P20. Did you see how he got demoted down to P20 because he didn't finish there? And
No, he modified the car under Park Ferme. I think additional power unit, which is,
okay,
we're at the halfway point, so that's kind of typical of what we're going to start seeing.
yep.
Some cars, replace those parts. Unfortunately, under Park Ferme, if it happens, and that's what happened to Sonoda. So he had to start from the pit lane, which is unfortunate. But I mean, he didn't have a spectacular qualifying anyways. He was starting, I think he only qualified 16th. He was out in the first round. So, not terrible. for him, I guess, all things considered. He moved all the way back up to 17th, so I guess that's something.
Hey, oh man. Well, one of those was a retirement as well. So,
That's fair.
oh boy, Yuki, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on. I if at any point from here till the end of the season he gets let go, I will not be surprised. In fact, I will be surprised if he's still sitting in that seat at the end of the season. They might not want to make a change because there's, I mean, if they don't want to get rid of him, it'll only be because they've already done too much, you know, uh, moving people around at Red Bull, and they might not have much to gain by putting somebody else in the seat. It's no, there's zero guarantee that anybody else could come in and really perform in the car. So if he gets to the end of the year, that is the only mentality I can think that they might have over there at Red Bull for keeping him, because he's just not getting any kind of results whatsoever.
Yeah, this is his worst result since Monaco. Monaco, he was 17th. He finished 17th here. Um, but he hasn't cracked the top 10 since before Monaco. So just not being able to translate it, man. He's still only sitting with 10 points. Max Verstappen is just holding that team above water. And after a result like today, if there's any more races just like it, they're going to fall back, and it's going to really affect everything for next year, right? So
Red Bull is moving backwards, man. It's kind of sad to see,
yeah, they've dropped to fourth in the championship.
And when you see Max doing whatever he can and only managing middling or back of the points places, it seems like the car is not there. The car's not there for a guy like Max to do more with it.
Right.
So, yeah, my overall impression of the race, I guess I'll just give that really quick. It was a very exciting race, given especially what you said about Hungary being a narrow track, hard to pass. I thought that there was actually a lot of passes that happened in this race, and they weren't always at traditional spots. And we'll talk about some crazy overtakes that we did see, moves made by folks throughout the race. And then I will say that most of the passing was done in the lower places. They weren't necessarily in the top contenders places
Right.
that the big moves were happening. But back further, there was Hamilton made some moves on some guys. Um, Bortoleto made some moves. So there was action. There was some good action, and it was an interesting mix as well of some overtaking on track, as well as strategy, one stop versus two stop strategy. What tires are you going to use strategy? How long can you hang on strategy? How do you use the lapped cars to affect the outcome of the race? I mean, there was interesting stuff to observe in this thing.
Yeah, I want to start at the very very start, because Lando has to work on his starts, man. Like that guy, he just
Yes.
fell back immediately. George Russell, I soared right by him like he was standing still. And in
Mm-hmm.
all fairness, George Russell, very good at starts.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a one-off for him. He's very good at reaction time. If there's one thing Norris has to work on, it is his race starts, man, because that is where he's always falling back.
Yeah, he got a reputation for it last year, actually, that his inability to convert pole because of his poor starts. A lot of times he was losing the starts before turn one or into turn one. So if you work your butt off to get a pole position, you got to hang on to that tooth and nail, And yeah, so what happens is they launch. He actually got a good launch, but what he did with the launch made no sense. He made a dive towards, I think it was the inside of the track, kind of by where the pit lane is, and then he got squeezed by Oscar, and that's when George shot out of fourth and up to third, and George actually made a move on Oscar going in turn one, I think it was, and almost had George
Almost
almost shot up to P2.
Fernando Alonso was there too, because Alonso got past
Yeah,
Norris,
yeah.
falling down into turn one.
Norris fell all the way back to P5 from P3, lost 2 spots. I mean, then he's then he's in a really precarious spot, especially on tracks where it's hard to overtake, right? So,
Right.
yeah, you are 100% correct. If he, I don't know what you do to work on a race start, but they got to figure something out for him so that he can get better at that.
Yeah, man. It was such a bummer, but I gotta say, when I saw Fernando up in the first lap, it gave me some real hope. That probably was the only thing that got my heart rate up right until Norris got past him again. So, but I mean, he started fifth and he ultimately finished fifth. So a great result for the Aston Martin this weekend.
Totally. Yeah, great race by Fernando. His racecraft was on display, holding that P5 against some good
Absolutely.
people coming up the from behind him. You know, Max was back there, Lewis was back there. We had Hadjar and Behrman and Lawson all at some points in that kind of vicinity of him. And so yeah, he did a good job. I love to see that, especially with the bad back. Which guys our age, I say our age, my age, and Fernando, I'm the same age as him. Bad back, you know, I wouldn't want to be driving a car around, but yeah. Then let's see. The other thing that happened right at the start was Bortoleto nicked the P6 from Stroll. Poor Stroll
Oh man.
getting done up by a rookie.
Right.
But yeah, great move. And Bortoleto, I think, you know, Bortoleto had an amazing run. Sauber
Absolutely.
continues to impress. Bortoleto finished sixth, started sixth, so fantastic result for him. Um, and I think he was voted driver of the day. Bortoleto was so. Yeah, out of nowhere, you know, at the beginning of this year, we were saying we were kind of rating the 6 rookies that are out there, and Bortoleto was kind of at the back of all that. And out of nowhere, this guy has surged up, and I feel like he's doing better than Antonelli. He's doing better than Behrman. Those were the kind of the guys that were doing better than him. Hadjar, even Hadjar's kind of taken a bit of a step back. So, Bortoleto, way to go, man.
Yeah, you know, when my dad was on the podcast a couple weeks ago, he was talking about, you know, when you see a driver, like you can just tell, like you know, they're going to be somebody. He said he felt that with Senna, with Schumacher, and even when Hamilton came on the scene. And I feel like that's sort of what we're seeing with Bortoleto, man. He is in a car which, for the past handful of years, has just been to be at the back is just generous because they were significantly off the pace of everybody. And to be pulling out this kind of a result, I think speaks volumes, not just as how the team has come forward, but him as a driver, man. He is putting everything he can into it.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And they were talking about one of his wins in F2. Um, I think they said he completed a last to first finish in F2,
I think I
and
remember that race. Yeah.
he like I haven't really done a good job of watching the feeder series races. I don't do that very frequently, but it was interesting to hear him talk about it. So maybe I want to go back and sort of watch that and see how that played out, because that's crazy. Last to first, and then I think he got the benefit of a safety car, and they were talking about that how he was worried that people would think it was just the safety car that benefited him, and so he like ended up winning by multiple seconds. He wanted to prove that he was fast. So yeah. Anyway, we'll have to keep our eye on Bortoleto the second half of the season.
Yeah. And you know what? With his result today, in conjunction with Nico's at Great Britain, they have jumped up to sixth in the standings. They are ahead of Racing Bulls. They're ahead of Aston Martin, Haas, and Alpine. Not by much, I should admit. They're only 2 points ahead of Racing Bulls. So, but they're still climbing up. I mean, Williams is at 70 points. They're kind of in no man's land right now. Red Bull ahead of them are at 192 and Sauber's down at 43, but that's not an impossible gap. They could make that they could make up those points, get fifth.
That'd be insane. I
Especially
love
after the weekend Williams had this week, man.
I love the green car. They've not given us a lot of reason to cheer for them, but I might have to go out and start finding some Kick Sauber merch. Of course, they'll change to Audi next year, right?
I could go for an Audi hat, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I like Audi. So while we're on this with the Bortoleto talk, I think we have to mention that Liam Lawson has seemed to right the ship. I don't know what you think, but I feel like he's starting to get it done. He outperformed Isaac today. He's been doing quite a bit better than he did at the start of the season. He got a P8 today.
Yeah, it sort of started back in Monaco, right? Because that was the first time he had a top 10 finish. He did follow it up with 11th in Spain, so not too far off, right? He had a DNF in Canada, which was unfortunate, but Austria sneaking out a P6, followed by a DNF in Great Britain. But yeah, Belgium and Hungary, two P8s back to back. So definitely coming up, definitely feeling more comfortable. Whatever he's done or has been doing to, you know, right that ship, I think whatever he's doing is working. And I hope we continue to see something in the back half of the season. You know, we're on the decline now in the season, and I hope he can continue to move up.
He finished ahead of Max Verstappen today. I mean, that's pretty insane, right?
Yeah, super out of place for Verstappen.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that felt like a small bit of vindication to beat Max in the
Right,
Racing Bull car.
right.
And so I would say Liam looks like he's starting to settle in, which is good news. I wasn't sure about him. But he performed well when he subbed in last year, and then everything in the beginning of this year just seemed like wrong for him. that how they treated him at Red Bull with the two races and kicked him out. So I have been looking for him to redeem himself, and I think he's kind of there at this point. I think it wouldn't take much more than what he's done now to show that he's still got the chops. So good news story for Liam Lawson.
Yeah, man. He's definitely going to keep an eye on him for sure.
All right, so we
Oh, I'm
kind of
sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say we kind of took this discussion off the runoff track there. To I guess I was going to circle it back, but if you had something else to add to this,
No, you're good, man.
all right,
Keep going.
all right. So at the start here, Behrman gets up to P10. Hamilton drops back, I think, a couple of spots. Max overtook Stroll on lap 3 with a late brake move. That was kind of a nice move. I don't know if you caught that one. And then continued up battling. Max was battling to try to get past Bortoleto in lap 4, but he never did quite take him. Another little feather in Bortoleto's cap. And then around this time, the FIA came up and noted that there was they were investigating moving before the signal at the race start for Bortoleto and Hulkenberg, both Sauber. So it was looking a
Yeah.
little dicey for him. And ultimately, Bortoleto escaped that one. Didn't get penalized. They said he was standing still at the right time. I think I had never heard this before. I don't know if you knew this or not, but they said on the broadcast that once the fourth light comes on, you can't be moving. So there's 5 lights right before the start, and once that fourth light lights up, you have to be completely still. So evidently, you can be moving a little bit on the first 3 lights, but the fourth light you have to stop. And you could see when you watch the replay that Hulkenberg was just creeping. I mean, who the heck caught that? He was moving like centimeters at most, and so Hulkenberg got a 5-second penalty for moving before the signal.
Yeah, super unfortunate for Nico,
Yeah.
which still finished 13th, if I'm reading that right.
Yeah, actually not a bad result, all things considered. He was all the way at the back at one point.
Yeah, finishing just behind Hamilton. So
okay, so then next note that I had was that Hadjar actually got hit in the hand with some loose gravel that got kicked up off the track, which we've seen that happen from time to time, and I can hardly imagine getting hit by a freaking pebble at 90 miles an hour or whatever they were doing through the turn that he was that he was going through, let alone sometimes this happens at 200 miles an hour.
Right.
But he reported that on the radio. That was kind of bad. And around that time, Norris was able to squeak back up to P4. Um, and so, yeah, then I think at this point we start to get into a little bit of strategy and pit stopping with Hulkenberg. He hopped in at like lap 5 to put on some new mediums. I'm not sure what they were trying to do there. I think they were trying to pull something out of nothing there. But then we get into I don't know. The first note that I had for a pit was lap 18, Verstappen going on to hard tires. Did you have anything else before lap 18 with Max?
Yeah, so Hulkenberg pitted on lap 5, then Colapinto on 13, Ocon and Albon 14, Sainz 15, and then Verstappen 17. So I don't think those were actually broadcast, though. I think they were focusing on the top drivers at that point. Everybody sort of kind of just fell into a DRS train and had to really kind of make their own luck in this race. So we did see people pitting early, trying to make things happen, especially those that were in the back. Both Williams pitted early. They just had a sort of terrible race. I think I even saw James Voles come on at one point during the weekend saying their car isn't really set up for these kind of shorter, slower moving tracks. They're really set up for fast moving tracks, places like Monza and places like Baku, where you have these long like runs of just being flat out. So just unfortunate, but they still, I say they managed an okay. They weren't in the bottom 5. But yeah, pit stops definitely played a huge part. I don't want to jump too far ahead, talking about pit stops, because there was at one point where I think it was McLaren had sent their guys out for the pit stop, and Charles Leclerc came in, and then McLaren ultimately stayed out and did the opposite of what Leclerc did. So a little mind games going on in the pits.
For sure. I did show so Verstappen pitted at lap 18 to go on to the hards, which was kind of the first of the distance strategy moves, right? Like, let's see if we can take a hard tire to the end kind of idea.
Right.
And then immediately after that, Oscar Piastri from P2 pits on lap 19, and he's trying to make an undercut attempt on Leclerc, right? This is their move to try to steal first place. And so Leclerc pit on the next lap,
Right.
lap
Lap
19, lap 19, and actually comes out ahead of Piastri. So I don't know if we should note this as a moment when Ferrari got it right, but they strategized and pulled it off and executed. I can't remember who. Oh, it was later in the race. We saw a pit stop come in at 1.9 seconds for McLaren. Did you see that? Did you catch that?
Yeah, super quick, man.
Yeah, it was a Lando pit. So again, I'm getting ahead here, but I think that was the quickest one. I think the quickest of the year so far has been a 2.0. So McLaren pit crew coming on strong this race.
Yeah, man, really, really crushing it, which is good for them.
So I also noted that Russell pitted on lap 19, and he came behind Bortoleto. So that was, I don't know that that's what they were hoping would happen from the Mercedes pit wall, but yeah, that was another of the key pit stops that happened.
Yeah, pit stops weren't really big on my radar, which they probably should have been a little more closely, because it ultimately really decided where everybody came in. But you're right, trying to make the one-stop strategy is sort of impossible at Hungary. Not that it can't be done, but I think you really need to make it a 2-stop race. Hamilton only did a 1-stop, if I remember correctly. He pitted super late in the race. I don't think he pitted until lap 42. out of the 70, so really late. Um, and maybe it helped him because he did finish. Well, I guess it didn't do anything. He started 12th and finished 12th, so didn't
Yeah.
really do anything for him. Maybe he just didn't gamble hard enough.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, but yeah, I mean, well, the one stop proved to be the winning strategy for Lando. So yeah, that
Yeah,
it did work out, but it was like you said, he was basically testing the limits of of a one stop. He was on a hard. That's the one you want to be on if you're going one stop. You got to use
right.
a hard either at the start or after you pit, and he did, and he was his grip was so much worse than P2 that it was he almost lost out on the race, but he held on. So yeah, that after lap 19, I didn't have a lot noted until lap 30, where Max makes a move, crazy dive to take Hamilton for P11. So I will say too, like the other thing that I didn't tee up at the beginning of this was that last year there was contact between Lewis
Right.
and Max in this race, right? um,
Sent Max flying.
Sent Max airborne, and ultimately, I think Lewis ended on the podium last year, right? I think he took maybe P3.
Piastri, Norris, and Hamilton were the top three last year.
So ultimately, it worked out well for Lewis last year, the contact. But anyway, then it was like a little bit of a revenge move there from from Max. He made a very brave dive on Lewis to get P11.
Yeah, sort
Um,
of aggressive.
yeah. Then he takes Hadjar at the chicane, and then Behrman pit, and so Max jumps all the way up to P9. Um, and I think they actually investigated that aggressive move by Max because he came in really hot and pretty much left no room for Hamilton, who had to then take the
Yeah,
escape
forced
route,
him wide.
or onto the wide part of the track. So yeah, that was exciting.
Yeah, really, really aggressive from Max, which isn't abnormal. Max has historically been a very aggressive driver.
Yeah,
Which has got him in hot water a handful of times. I don't know. From my personal perspective, I think it was a bit of a dirty move. You know, it's a very fast left-hander where he did it, and it's the only really fast left-hander. It's kind of a blind one too. But was Max entitled to it? Yeah, you could argue that, but uh, to like force the guy on the outside all the way off, that's kind of a dirty move in my book.
yeah, it looked dirty to me too. Because Lewis, what do you expect him to do? He either has to go wide, he has to jam on the brakes, probably lock up, which would be dangerous, or he has to be hit by Max. So danger, danger, or take the wide go wide on that one is his only chances. It seems like. So they were going to investigate it after the race. They did decide to dole out a penalty during the race. So I don't know, we could still see a FIA uh, hammer Max with a penalty on that one, and that could change his result a little bit. I don't know how far ahead he was of P10, um, but yeah, uh, I guess we'll wait and see. Maybe we'll
I
talk about
guess.
that
Well,
next time.
yeah. I guess. Well. Speaking. I don't know if it's jumping too far ahead, but I don't know if you saw, but Pierre Gasly received a 10-second penalty for causing a collision,
Mm-hmm.
and Charles Leclerc also received a 5-second penalty for "quote unquote" driving erratically.
Yeah, yeah. The Leclerc move, um, yeah, that makes sense to me. He looked like he was moving under braking, trying to hold off George Russell, and he did it a couple of times, and it was just desperation. We talked about this with Charles Leclerc a couple of races ago, right? A desperate drive, and you could see it. I mean, from P1, and he's just scrapping for whatever he can get, and I give it to him for that. But yeah, he did have a couple of moves that just weren't. They were too questionable, and he got I not a big deal to him because he was so far ahead of Alonso in P5. I think they have
Right.
over a 30-second gap, so the the penalty didn't affect him in that way, position wise. Probably go on his point some points on his license, I guess. But
Yeah, kind of going back to the middle of the race, it really came to a head for me with Charles Leclerc about midway when after he made his second stop and he came on the radio and had sort of a cryptic message for his team, uh, which I think, at least for me, I interpreted it as like, hey, we should have talked about like this outcome more. It seems like he really had his own personal ideas on the strategy and what they should have done. But, Ferrari being Ferrari, don't listen to the drivers. And, you know, Leclerc definitely vented out his frustrations
yeah,
over the radio with the team. He left this big long message to him like, man, like, how come you guys don't listen? Like, if you guys would have just listened to me, I could have managed this and done it this way. Like, I know you guys have data, but like, you guys are not in the car. And man, it's just so heartbreaking because I think if Ferrari would stop shooting themselves in the foot, they might have a decent race.
Charles has been with the team for a long time, and it seems clear to me that he should be listened to. That is, I think that's definitely he's earned the right to be listened to. And yeah, he was ticked off, and it was like he didn't want to say, I guess, some kind of coded message, right? He had to keep it coded, which is interesting. That's a whole other thing. I learned about a little bit more about this on a different podcast this year on F1 Explains. Uh, that those messages are public, right? So there's a lot of interesting stuff that goes on over the radio, right? Like they have to say stuff like Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. That's how they talk about their strategy without the other teams knowing what it is because they're entitled to hear what everybody's saying. And so he didn't want to say what they had discussed. So it was like you said, it's a cryptic message. It was super long, and I thought it was funny. The commentators are like, "How long is this message going to go on?" Because the whole screen was taken up with the Charles
Yeah, it
Leclerc message.
was.
But yeah, I don't know what you thought, but it seemed like maybe they were talking about a setup thing, not necessarily a strategy and pit stop thing. That his coded message might be referring to. I don't know.
Well, it was so cryptic that it's really hard to say, right? Because I have it
Mm,
right here. So he says, "quote I can feel what we discussed before the race. We need to discuss those things before doing them." And then he later added, "We are going to lose this race with these things. We are losing so much time. It's incredibly frustrating. We've lost all competitiveness. You just have to listen to me," which isn't cryptic at all. That's very
yeah,
plain. I would have found a different way of managing those issues. Now it's just undrivable. It's a miracle if we finish on the podium. So I think he wanted, knowing his car and the way that he's driving, I think he really wanted to go for, maybe a different setup, but also maybe try for the one-stop strategy, because I think he probably vented his frustrations, about how, prior that, obviously he's going to be racing Piastri, but it's there's two cars to a team, and I don't think Ferrari were really taking into account Lando. I think they were just really trying to head off Piastri. Um, and we saw it, right? Because as soon as Piastri got past Leclerc, he was long gone by the end of the lap. And then same thing when Russell got past, he was long gone by the end of the lap. Like his car was just falling back. And I mean, ultimately, he finished a little more than 20 seconds behind George Russell. Just a terrible race for him. Starting on the pole, had everything going for him, and then you finish fourth. That
yeah,
is such a heartbreak. I'm sure he's going to be, I don't know if yelling, but he'll definitely be venting his frustrations with his team today.
absolutely. Yeah, that was very disappointing for Ferrari, and they just got a couple things wrong. From midpoint of the race onward. And I mean, to be fair, the McLaren has such speed. You know, him maybe dropping down to third makes some sense, but for them to drop all the way to fourth, yeah, I think the team botched something there.
Yeah. Well, because he finished 40 seconds behind Lando. That's a
It's
huge
insane.
gap. Huge gap.
That's like 2/3 of the lap almost. Jeez.
Just about, man.
Okay, so maybe I'll recap a few things and then we can talk about the race end because that was definitely heart and throat moments, right? So okay,
Yeah, bring it on.
so here we go. Let's see. Lando finally makes a pit stop on lap 32, so we're still at about halfway point. Again, fastest pit stop of the year, 1.9 seconds, if that gets recorded as the official time, but that's what was on the screen. On to hards. So he goes from mediums to hards and is looking at a one stop strategy, which ultimately is what pans out for him. One stop strategy for Lando. He comes out P4 behind George Russell, which will then kind of shake up eventually. Alonso pitted at lap 39. Leclerc pitted at 41, trying to do an overcut to overcut Piastri and Lando. It didn't pan out. So I don't know if that's where it went wrong for him. I think maybe that is, right? So like if they had gone for the one stop only. But yeah, the Leclerc pit stop at lap 41, I think might have been where it really doomed him. Bortoleto pits at 41, Hamilton at 43, George pits at 44, Piastri pits on 46 and emerges 5 seconds behind Leclerc. Behrman retired the car at lap 50. Remember, there's 70 laps in this race. And then Oscar easily passes Leclerc on lap 51 in turn one. So Oscar was behind Leclerc, right? And then he just took it with ease, right? So we're starting to see that that strategy shape up poorly for Leclerc. And then Russell takes Leclerc for P3 on lap 62. There was really a good battle between the two of them, except that Charles was driving erratically and ends up getting penalized for it. But and then it shakes out that Lando at this point, he ends up in the lead, right? Because he does the one stop strategy. They keep coming on the radio asking him how the tires are doing, and he seems okay with the tires and figures there's nothing to lose trying to just go for the one stop strategy, even though his tires are going to be dropping off while Oscar has fresher tires. So this sets up a ridiculously crazy battle where Lando's in P1, Oscar's in P2, and remember, last year this was the race where McLaren had team orders. Lando gave the spot back to Oscar for Oscar to take the win because they thought that on merit Oscar had driven the proper race and it was the pit wall's fault for pitting Oscar when they did or whatever, and so they wanted Oscar to take the win. No such team orders today. Lando is hanging on to the tires, doing very well, I might add. We tend to talk about Lando, or at least I have, about him driving kind of emotionally, sometimes getting down, sometimes making mistakes under pressure moments. He did not make mistakes under very high pressure moments today. So there was quite a bit of ground for Oscar to make up once he got into P2. Oscar had about 9 seconds to make up, and I think there was somewhere around 18 or 19 laps. So you can imagine about half a second a lap to catch him by the end. And he does it. Oscar steps on it, and he just is ripping, shaving time off of that lead as the laps wear down. I took note that there was 1.5 second gap between Lando in first and Oscar in second with 6 laps to go. And then Lando starts hitting back markers to lap, and he's actually coming on the radio asking his team to be proactive about getting on the stewards to show the blue flags early to the back markers because he doesn't want to get held up behind them. So I don't know. What did you have any thoughts? I just kind of rattled off a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, you're good, man. So traffic definitely played a huge role, right? Because 10th for Kimi Antonelli all the way back down. They all finished a lap down, right? So by the time Oscar's running up to catch him, Lando's stuck behind Antonelli, Hadjar, Hamilton, and I think Hulkenberg at one point. was in the mix there, and I could definitely see Lando's frustration because they definitely helped him up and allowed Piastri to catch up because once they cleared the traffic, Piastri just couldn't close the gap. He just kind of stayed right behind him, even with the DRS, in which there's only 2 DRS zones. So he just couldn't translate it. So I think he just kind of ran out of luck on that one. Had they caught up to Verstappen and Lawson, and I think Stroll was right there too with Bortoleto, they were all kind of within like 2 or 3 seconds of each other. He might have been able to get it, but he just ran out of luck on that one.
He made two moves into turn one, coming off the DRS, right? So the DRS goes down the back straight or the front straight, um, and then they come into turn one. That's kind of a passing opportunity moment if you've got it right. He made one move on laps, must have been lap 69. Got very close but could not pull it off. And then on lap 70, I think the very last lap, he made another lunge and locked up. And I was a little concerned that Piastri was going to complain that Lando moved under braking because Lando made a pretty aggressive defense with taking an inside, line from the
Yeah.
outside. And so I thought that was, I mean, nobody that didn't get investigated or anything. I thought Piastri might complain. He didn't, at least not on the team radio. Maybe after the race, I don't know, but yeah, it was a good move by Lando, no mistake, and then a lockup from Oscar, and then that was kind of it. There was no other chance for him to put it down, and that's kind of what happened last week, right? But in the reverse, where Piastri was in the lead, Lando was coming up from behind. Lando made a couple mistakes in his desperate attempt to catch up, and that was all. That was all she wrote. So anyway, yeah, it was very exciting. I mean, just watching that time come down between Oscar and Lando as they charged into the end of the race. My wife was watching with me, who she's been getting more and more into this, and she was just like, I feel sick. So just watching it and seeing it play out, and this is, I'm telling you, James, we started this podcast in maybe one of the more exciting years to do so. The challenge between the two McLaren drivers is really good TV. It's good to watch. I mean, it's setting up for a really cool ending to the season. So
Absolutely.
these guys are now separated by, I think, 8 points, something like that. After Lando cutting in significantly to Oscar's lead with the win today. So it was a lot to play for. If Oscar had won today, it would have put him pretty far out of reach, and he didn't win it. So Lando, kudos to him for making this interesting.
Yeah, man, they keep going back and forth in the points. Lando will close it, and then Piastri will kind of pull away, then Lando will close it again. And they keep alternating. And you're right, they're less than 10 points away. Piastri's sitting at 284 and Norris is at 275. So it's coming down to the wire. And I don't think Verstappen's going to catch him at this point. I think that's pretty realistic. Looking at where Verstappen is all the way down at 187, but I think Russell might be able to sneak the P3 at the end of the year because he's at 172. So was that 15 points back? I think he might be able to do it, especially if there's more races like today.
Yeah, Russell is stringing together some nice performances, and I think that's good for him because he's unsigned for next year,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and I think it seems clear to me that he's squeezing what he can out of that Mercedes car. So I'm enjoying watching George. I think he's doing well. He's living up to what I would expect of him. I think if he gets a car that's even close to like what McLaren's got, he's a guy who can vie for a championship. I think he's savvy.
Yeah.
And
it
Leclerc,
was. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, Leclerc too, if he can get his team to respect him enough to do right by him. So Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, you
he's
were going
only
to say something.
21 points behind Russell, so I mean, the potential is there,
Yeah.
but Ferrari
Yeah.
just have to stop shooting themselves in the foot. I will say, in all fairness, Ferrari is second in the championship, so maybe they feel like they're doing something right, but Mercedes is only 28 points back, and we just need Antonelli to sort of figure out what's been going wrong, because he's had a rough past couple of races, and now um, he just needs to figure it out and close that gap
Yeah.
for him, because I mean, he finished 10th today, which is a point, but it's not as good as he could be, right? Because Russell's
Yeah.
all the way up in third.
Right. Yeah. Antonelli has sort of settled into where we'd expect a rookie to be, right? He started off a little stronger and has just kind of settled in. Um, uh, So I guess I'll recap really quick the final result. Lando took the win as we discussed. Oscar P2. George rounds out the podium on P3. Charles unfortunately drops to P4 off the podium, probably pretty ticked off. Great result though for Fernando in fifth, Gabriel Bortoleto in sixth, Lance Stroll in seventh. I mean, come on, give it up to Lance. Liam Lawson in eighth, Max in ninth, Kimmy 10th. And then poor Isaac Hadjar just outside the points. He's settled in kind of rookie like to some not as great finishes as he had at the beginning of the year. Isaac Hadjar in 11th. Lewis Hamilton, a very disappointing P12. I'm sure he's furious. Nico Hulkenberg, P13, which is not a great result. However, he started closer to the back, so not bad given where he started. And then your poor Williams guys in 14th and 15th. Not a
Yeah,
great day for Williams.
terrible.
Ocon from Haas in 16th, Yuki in 17th. That's bad. Franco Colapinto in 18th, Pierre 19th. Bad day for Alpine. Ollie Behrman, only guy to not finish the race, DNF. So Behrman was doing okay. He was kind of up there in the points positions, battling around there, but just ended up having an issue with his car and couldn't pull it out. So that was the final results of the race. Very very good race. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun race. We now head into the summer break. We've got a couple of weeks off, and our next race is the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort, right? So a home race for Max Verstappen, the real home race. Even though I kind of made some jokes
Right.
about it being that he was born in Belgium, but yeah. By the way, how did our bold predictions from last week go? I think mine came true, didn't it? I didn't I predict that George was going to finish on the podium?
Did you? I
I
think
think
you
that's what
might
it
have.
was.
I
I have to
think
go
you
back
might
and
have.
listen.
Uh, yeah, I got to go back and listen to mine too. I think I predicted Williams were going to do a lot better than they did. So I don't think I managed to sneak any out this weekend.
A biff. Dang.
Yeah,
Um,
swing and a miss.
I think there's a couple other pieces of news that we need to maybe talk about. Did I hear? I heard a couple of things, and I think I only heard about it from the people talking on the broadcast that Max re-signed with Red Bull for a
Did
couple
you?
more years, and Fred Vasseur renewed with Ferrari. I,
I did see Fred Vasseur renew with Ferrari, which is a great way to dispel the rumors that have been circulating that the former Red Bull CEO was going to take over. So it's great to see Fred Vasseur. I really like him. He did a good job at Sauber given with what he had, and stepping into Ferrari, I think he's done a pretty decent job. Can do better, but a decent job overall.
yeah, Fred has taken the team, I think, to a new level, as you kind of mentioned, with them being second in the constructors championship, right? So, I mean, we bagged on Ferrari a bit, and in reality, on the constructor side at least, they're doing pretty good.
Yeah, so just looking at it now, it looks like Max Verstappen has extended his contract to the end of the 2028 season. Uh, I'm sure there's a bunch of exit clauses that are in there that can be triggered. So we'll find out if he actually makes it to 2028.
Yeah, but it does seem clear that the intent is to stay there, which has been a huge source of speculation that he might go to Mercedes or somewhere else. So yeah, some interesting news that we sort of overlooked at the beginning of the podcast. But yeah, that is good stuff. That is very interesting news. Maybe give us something to chat about in off weeks that we're about to have.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Well, overall, I would say a decent race. I didn't have to give out any Bonehead of the Day awards today, so just very unfortunate for Behrman. You know, he qualified up in 11th and had kind of a rough go, taking damage and ruining his race. Just terrible. Great job for Gabriel Bortoleto. I'm super excited to see where this kid goes, especially if he keeps on this, you know, running towards the end of the year and can pick up some more points. I think it'll be really good for his, not just for him in terms of standings, but for his morale as well, you know, boost his confidence.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, if there was a Bonehead of the Day award, it wouldn't necessarily go to any driver, although there was a couple of tussles near the back. I think with Gasly, there was a couple incidents noted, or you could just give it to the pit wall at Ferrari. I mean, that'd be the Bonehead of the Day
Yeah.
award.
Just listen to your drivers, man. That's all you got to do.
That's right. All right. Well, I guess we will convene in the summer break, and then I think we mentioned before we started recording, I may not be here for the next race coverage because I'll be out of town to talk about Zandvoort. But maybe between now and then I'll at least have the chance to dream up some bold predictions to share
There you
on one of
go.
the next episodes.
Sounds good, man. Yeah. That sounds good to me. Until then, I will see you next week.
Adios.
Adios.